Hello, greetings, everybody. It's Chris Carr from Black Land Ownership, and you are watching Just for My People, an interview series with various folks that are involved in creative work, involved in land projects, and community projects. So today I have some special guests. Happen to run into one of the folks down in Texas. I'll let them introduce themselves. Please tell us who you are.
My name is Erica. Erica Chambers, I am a co-founder of a company called Puzzles of Color. So my brother and I started this business because we wanted to see more representation in the jigsaw puzzle space. And so we actually make puzzles using work of artists of color exclusively and turn them into anywhere from a 60 to 1,000 piece puzzle.
Awesome.
Yep, and I'm William Jones. I'm a co-founder of Puzzles Code as well. Erica, my sister, came up with the idea to help her decorate her nursery, and then I thought it was a great idea for a business. And since then, we've been pursuing that, and I work a lot with the artists directly and do a lot of the packaging design work for the company. So yeah.
Awesome. For people that aren't aware, what's a jigsaw puzzle? I know. But just so they, we have some people that are only on the device.
Yeah.
So, what's a jigsaw puzzle, and what drew you to the idea, Erica, or what got you excited when you heard the idea that you wanted to jump on it?
Yeah.
Well, I always say jigsaw puzzle because there are so many types of puzzles. Like Sudoku is technically a puzzle. There's, crosswords and all that kind of stuff that all falls under the puzzle category. But jigsaw puzzles were actually invented back in the day. They used to actually use a saw to cut puzzles out of wood. And they originally started with maps. They took maps and they cut them along different lines, city lines, and you got to learn where your city was based on putting this puzzle together. But now they are made very different. There are still some companies that still use the old-fashioned, wooden and saw and all that, but most of them are cardboard, which is what our puzzles are made out of. And they are basically one large image that is cut into tiny pieces, and then you put them back together to create that image again.
Dope. Okay. And what brought you to creating puzzles in the first place, gaming, and specifically jigsaw puzzles?
Yeah, so we grew up doing puzzles. Our mother got us into puzzles to keep us entertained during the holidays and just during times we were not in school. And we really took to it really quickly. We really liked the challenge it presented for us. We got to spend a lot of time together, me and my sister, just trying to, work on this puzzle together. We do big 1,000-piece puzzles that were really difficult. So we wanted to it just gave us a lot of time to talk and catch up and stuff. So for us, it was really good for bonding. And then when my sister brought the idea, we realized because we're going to do puzzles, we didn't do any puzzles that represented us. We just had puzzles that were cartoon characters or landscapes, because of that nature, maps and stuff. But we really wanted to bring that to our kids, to our future, to our generation, I guess. And then that's kind of where that idea sparked, and we've been going at it since.
I mean, were you all's backgrounds in something similar? Was it you had a day job, got the idea, and are trying to turn this into a day job? Is it oh, we like this for fun? Is it, no, this is more than a day job. I wake up, start it, go to bed doing it. How does this kind of sit now in your life, and how'd you get there?
Well, it is, we both have, I have a full-time job. William has a part-time job. William is actually a graphic designer and does a lot of freelance work. I work for a bank and do project management, process management. And so this is kind of a side hustle at the moment, but it is very time consuming for sure. We're very fortunate that we've been growing pretty rapidly, much faster than we anticipated. So that is taking up a lot of time. But, like I said, William, I came up with the idea just kind of on a whim, and we thought it was going to be something that we kind of slowly built into this, something huge. We were really fortunate that we got some national news coverage pretty early on. We started the company in July of 2020. Our site went live in October, and we were on CBS This Morning and some other national news coverage in January of 2021. So pretty quickly, we got a pretty large platform. And so from there, we have, come out with more collections, had more artists that we've gotten involved, and, gotten to be, put into some stores. And so we've really, had to use our skills in our day-to-day jobs. William, because of his graphic design abilities, he actually created our logo. He designs our boxes. And he has, his skill has really allowed us to save a lot of money that we would have otherwise had to spend on like the design aspect of, of a company that is very image heavy. And then also like me with, like I said, project management. My mom is a lawyer. She does all of our contracts. We have a lot of the skills luckily in-house to be able to help us to be successful.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask. I find that there's always a kind of unfair business advantage, and it's a good thing.
Yep.
When I meet people, it's like, how'd you do this? And part of it is I had a skill set that you normally pay thousands of dollars for, tens of thousands, and I can do it. So we save money there. Or my cousin owned a factory, so I got a deal on. So it sounds like you all have a pretty good synergy of organizational experience and management experience with the creative. And someone is pretty good at communications. How do you all end up on CBS within 6 months of releasing your product?
We can thank my mother for that. She actually went to school, like to elementary school and college with a person who is our local CBS news correspondent and anchor. And he did a local story about us. And then with national news, I guess they watch a lot of the local news to see like what stories we should pick up. And we got picked up based on our local story. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. So how do you all see responses, like in terms of individuals, like how I ran into you and I was just excited, like, yo, I do puzzles and finally people look like me, as well as then socially, because sometimes when people have products oriented to Blackness or cultural, I think groups that aren't the majority, there can be a celebration or there can be I don't understand, why do we do this? What do you all tend to get when people come across your product?
I would say majority of it is definitely like on the positive, just excited to see it, kind of like how you were seeing a product. It's like, oh, it's something I never really recognized that was an issue, but now that you mention it, I have never seen a puzzle myself or things of that nature. So it's really something like people were just excited to see. And then I feel like we've really been accepted in the puzzling communities by the average puzzler who really, or who didn't realize that either it was an issue either, that they were seeing it. They're like, okay, well, I want to support, we'll buy and review, share, things of that nature. It's been really, really positively received by both by all communities so far. I mean, of course, there's occasional trolls or haters, of course, but overall, it's been like just really positivity and acceptance.
That's great to hear. And I know nothing about this. So is there a kind of entrenched business in puzzling of like 3 companies that are like, we don't like new people? Or is it an open community? Is there a history of kind of the monolith in the industry? How do you see that? Like, because I have no understanding of the puzzle world or gaming world.
Well, there are, of course, like some mega companies that I'm sure have no idea we even exist, or we're not aware of if they do. Like Ravensburg is a huge company. There's, I think, a few others. But then, like, there are a lot of boutique puzzle companies that have come up recently, partially due to COVID, partially before COVID, and then just, we're able to really take advantage of like the new resurgence of interest in puzzles. But I will say, like, we actually, I text another company all the time and I'm like, oh, hey, like, we're going to this trade show. How was your experience? Like, we are, I've spoken on the phone to several other companies that are, in kind of a same area as far as like really trying to grow and understand the industry. And it's been really supportive. I know we've bought puzzles from other companies. They've bought puzzles from us. And I think that at the end of the day, if you are a puzzler, especially if you're like a really avid puzzler that's doing them all the time, you're not buying typically from one company because they only come out with so many a year, right? So you are looking at, of course, you may have your favorites as far as like texture and piece size and all that stuff, but you're looking at the image. And so like that may mean that you're going to buy some puzzles from us, you're going to buy some puzzles from Ravens, you're going to buy some puzzles from Apostrophe or whatever all the different companies are. And so there is a really great, really friendly atmosphere within the industry.
That's awesome to hear. Like that's always for me like refreshing when you see like a movement towards the abundance mentality, or this kind of idea of the celebration is going to benefit all of us more than kind of nitpicking or competition. And in the space, how do you then sell? Or let me go back. How do you get them made before you even sell it? When you had your idea and you were like, I want to get puzzles made, where do you do that? How do you do that? You don't have to give us your sources, but like, what's the process?
Yeah, once we originally started, like we started at my sister's garage, we wanted to cut it in house because we felt it would be a little more affordable for us, because we had like trying to find like trying to order a minimum from manufacturers was really hard. Plus, like it was around COVID, so all of the supply chains were backing up, and like puzzle companies were like taking all the puzzle work. So it was really hard for us to find anything else. But trying to we had what's the word, self-produced it for the first couple of months, which really was good for us to learn and to understand the process very well. And then of course, once we blew up, we were able to like bet different manufacturers from stateside and overseas to help us get products produced and things of that nature.
Okay. When you all first started, was it a thing of like having to basically order custom puzzles from other puzzle makers? So like, so it's like pretty narrow margins, and then through that you could then get actual manufacturing relationships, or?
When we first started, we actually were, like I said, William said, we were making the puzzle in house. So we actually, William, luckily with his kind of background as far as graphic design, he knew a few printing companies. We were able to kind of get different quotes from them. And so we found companies that would print the puzzles and mount them onto the cardboard that we needed. And then we actually bought a machine from China and had it flown over, and the dies that were needed to cut the puzzles. And we're able to literally take this large print that's already been mounted, put it into the die, run it through the machine, and cut the puzzle into tiny pieces. And then we were bagging them and putting them in boxes. And it was like a whole process between my brother, William, my parents were over every weekend, every day after work. It was a full-fledged operation.
Wow, that's amazing. And you mentioned that before, like kind of this family element. On two sides of the question. One is, how do you see like puzzling being a unifier amongst family members? Or like, are there some elements that maybe we don't have in our family life now with all the distancing and everyone's on their own device and TV that puzzles kind of work through? And running your business, it's kind of family operation. So can you kind of touch on each one of those, whoever be comfortable?
I mean, that's a good question. I know for us, like I said, we grew up doing the puzzles together. So for us, it was bonding. And so I feel like even talking to people at like shows we go to, a lot of people say, oh yeah, we have a puzzle on our table every Christmas. So we just, come through, walk in, do a little piece. And the next thing you know, everybody's gathered around, just working on the puzzle for a little while. Then, go separate ways. So it's not always like immediately you must do this type now, do it now type thing, but it's definitely like a thing where people get to bond and just kind of like work together to meet a common goal. So I think that's really a good time for people to bond. And as far as like the business side, I mean, that's something that's like, they always say everybody's family of business, but for us, it hasn't been hard at all. I think like I said, we have skills that complement each other in both creative or business wise. Our skills are definitely complementary. So it's really been kind of easy for us. I think we kind of know when to like give and take as far as like controlling of, you know, uh, you know, design preferences that I have or things that I know we need to do versus like, okay, well, this is something Ericka can handle. So things of that nature.
Yeah, it definitely is a bonding for us. William always says that I never called him before, which I don't know if that's true, but we talk every single day now, multiple times a day sometimes, most of the time, honestly. My dad, he retired just last year, and so he's up at the office all the time. It's so funny because like we have like a security, system at the office, and like I'll be like, why was why did the alarm go off at 5 a.m? Oh, Dad's at the office. And so and so we're constantly seeing each other. I know, like, we've got a family chat and my dad's like, oh, puzzle color team, I just did this today, just so you know. And so we're constantly in communication, and it's really another way to bond us as adults, where like William's married and I'm married with a kid, and so like we're definitely would normally be like kind of living our own lives in our own separate areas, but it has definitely brought us back together, which has been really wonderful.
Yeah, and I don't know, I guess I hadn't thought about it culturally, because at the time I wasn't so aware of some of the social dynamics. I was 8 or 10. I just knew in my family we did puzzles all the time, and my aunt, my grandmother, it was like a big deal. Is there something where you all have found that there are a lot of African American families where puzzles were an element of that, like maybe 2 generations ago life, and people not really knowing that it was there, or kind of it's kind of faded, but possibly that leaves a lot of room for resurgence or like kind of reemergence, or what are you all's thoughts on that?
We definitely have seen, like, when that was part of the concern when we started the company, was like, okay, we do puzzles, but it's not like something that you necessarily are talking about at school with your friends, that like, oh, what puzzle did you do at home? Like, it's not something that we heard of other people doing. So we weren't sure if we were the only ones that were interested in puzzles, and like, is there an audience for puzzles featuring Black artists and artists of all the different minority groups. So we were really fortunate, like, as we were reaching out to different artists, they were like, oh, yeah, this is great. My aunt does puzzles all the time. Like, and they, everybody had somebody that they knew that was into puzzles. And like, as we go to events, because like we started, during COVID, and we weren't really able to do a lot of in-person events, but as we've started to go, venture out, we went to the state fair, we've gone, to trade shows and things like that. We have gotten to see in person people be like, oh, wow, I have a puzzle on my desk, on my, on my dining table every single Sunday, like, and like really hearing and seeing that it is something that is still culturally relevant. But I think that it also is definitely something that's coming back, because people are so like kind of burnt out on, the iPhones and the TVs, all, and all of that stuff. It really gives you a chance to kind of like decompress and give a little detox from technology.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. It's like we're definitely in a spot where it's kind of getting a resurgence because people don't want to be on the phones. I was going to say, nothing else to say actually. Well, I have nothing to add then. I had a good answer.
Did it tie into the family culture history stuff, the community stuff, or if it comes back to you, feel free to jump in anytime.
Yeah, I'll let you know if it comes back, but no, I just think it's yeah.
Now, a question I would have, and without getting into you all's more confidential or private information, as an industry, how lucrative are jigsaw puzzles? Like, are there demographics or like statistics on this, on how many puzzles are sold or how much revenue is generated, or as a business, how potentially lucrative it is?
There are, but kind of going back to that last question, we did a little bit of research, but we found that it wasn't as accurate to our audience. So like when we like kind of searched like who buys puzzles, and like one thing that was pretty clear was like 1,000 piece puzzles are the top selling puzzles, and that has been very prevalent within our own sales. Like, oh yeah, people love thousands, and so like those are just like tend to be our top selling puzzles. But like as far as like who does puzzles, like I think that like the demographics were showing like white men do the most puzzles, and that has not been our experience as far as like who has purchased from us. And so we kind of like, we read it, we kind of like had an idea, and we're able to say like, I guess if we needed to get investors, we can say this information, but I don't know how much it actually applies to us, just based on like our actual, our imagery and our kind of mission. Of course we do have white men that buy our puzzles, but like just like in general, like our age range is like tends to be a little bit different than what the typical 6 may say. It's predominantly female that buy our puzzles, and so the information is a little bit hard to track.
That's interesting. I think inspiring for me. I do diversity and equity work, when I'm not in art and land stuff. And I've spoken to so many tech people that are like, the data says this. And I'm like, well, that's old data, and you may not have done the survey correctly. And you're kind of doing confirmation bias by just doing what may have not been accurate. And hearing these stories of where it's like, the data says this, but our product doesn't sit quite with that. And kind of being able to go out on that limb and trust yourselves is something I find to be inspirational. How do you develop that confidence, or like what kind of gave you the feeling of we're gonna do this? And I know like it's as simple as, well, you do it. Like, I wanted to do it, I did it. But really, when people are like, are you sure you know how? Or did you get people who are immediately like, yeah, good, great idea? Like, do you get what I'm saying here?
I think it's like a little bit of naivety on our end as well. Just kind of like I said, we did our research, but we didn't like over research it. We weren't like trying to like, okay, our plan is to come in here and we know we can want 2% share of the puzzle selling profits or whatever. So we didn't really have that type of locked in mindset of what we wanted. We just kind of knew what we did. We saw the need and we wanted to be able to fulfill it. So I think that's kind of where it's just like seeing something that needs to be done and doing it, and then, you know, knowing or hoping that, you know, other people see the need as well, and it kind of pays off on itself on that way. So that's kind of how I would say we went about it.
So
Sure, we definitely like you said, we just kind of was like, well, we'll just do it and we'll see what happens. And again, that kind of goes back to like, we always kind of intended to grow slowly, and it was just kind of like, it'll be just what it is. And we like, you know, like I think the quantities we bought like originally was like 100 or 200 puzzles each of each of our designs. And like, so we really were like, we'll just sell a couple, and we just need to sell, you know, 20 a month and we'll be fine. That was like the original mindset. And we're very fortunate that we've been able to surpass that original goal. But, you know, it was very much like, you know, even if it doesn't set, we weren't really planning to make it like a big full-time thing originally. You know, it was just kind of like, we just want to put it out there, and like hopefully eventually it will grow to something huge.
Right. Yeah, we had like a side hustle mindset, and now it's becoming like, I mean, I know we say it's still part-time, but it really it's more full-time than part-time for me, for sure. It's a full-time business that we have to, you know, still navigate and change. Like you said, we're still learning some things, so we're changing things, and even like getting into like more retailers, things of that nature. We've gone to like going to trade shows and getting into more mom and pop stores has been great. We're also trying to get to more national retailers and kind of learning that side of the business, which is a totally different, like you talk about profit margins, that's a totally different profit margins situation there. But we're learning that as well.
Yeah. In terms of distribution, I know like with grocery stores, if I go into the store, I can't get a product on their shelf. Like, I have to go through a distribution channel where someone else paid for shelf space, and then I make an agreement and my stuff gets placed high, low, in the back, in the front. But I don't really get to dictate that. It's going to be the distributor and their relationship. Do puzzles or like some more of the national retail systems work like that? Or can you walk into a KB Toys, if that exists anymore, and get a puzzle placed?
For the larger retailers, like, I mean, like, I don't know KB Toy. I mean, I know the store, but I don't know how they work, but I do know like, you know, like Barnes and Noble, that type of stuff. Like, you would have like, they have like national sales reps that you have to work with. So like, we actually just started working with a company, or we're working on signing with a company that will kind of help, that has like those relationships already, and it can kind of help place you and say, you know, kind of give us more direction as far as like, okay, this type of imagery sells really well, like give us your spin of that, you know, and trying to get us like placed in those large stores. But we're really fortunate, like the 15% pledge reached out to us. And that is a company, like a nonprofit that really focuses on getting Black businesses, getting large stores to dedicate 15% of their shelves to Black businesses. And so with that, we were able to get into Madewell, like their online shop. And then, you know, we've had a few other just opportunities that have come through. And so, you know, there are a lot of resources out there that can really help you to get your foot in the door.
That's like really, that's good to hear. And like, when you're thinking moving forward, we have about like 8 or 10 minutes left in this. When you're thinking about moving forward, do you have kind of goals? And so it seems like, well, you all would like it to grow and to have a lot of kind of cultural effect. But have you identified monetary goals, revenue goals, and how do people support? Are you looking for investors? Are you all looking for, say, other partners in this space? What are your thoughts around those two things?
You want to go? We are, I know that we're trying, like one of our goals that we talked about, like just coming up is like wanting to be available in all 50 states in a store. Like, of course, online is a huge thing, but like puzzles tend to have like an older audience and some of which don't want to do to do buy online. So to be able to be available in a store in every state, would be amazing. Be that one large retailer or just several small stores. We are open to like investors and like trying to think about like how we want to like work, handle funding in the future. We haven't actually like sought out those things, but it's something that we're now trying to consider as far as like if we really do want to make this a full time, if we really want to dedicate more of our energy and and really grow it the way we want to, how do we fund that?
Right. And for folks who get an idea of, well, I'll be an entrepreneur and I'll have a side hustle, how do you find side hustle turning into 24/7? Or how have you managed work-life balance? When I speak to entrepreneurs, one of the things they say is there's no work-life balance. Get it out of your head and just be ready to work. And when people are like, wow, you're living your dream, it's like, no, I work all the time, but I like what I do when I'm working. And obviously there's gray area, nothing's binary, but how do you all manage that? Is there work-life balance? Has this turned into this all-encompassing animal, or?
It's definitely all-encompassing for me. I mean, even after I just had surgery this weekend, but I was still trying, like, I gotta get some work done still right afterwards. So and like packaging design is work. I'm always busy doing something. It's funny when you're running a business, you're not just the graphic designer anymore. You're the creative. You're the customer service. Everything is on you. So lucky for us, we have a couple team with our family, but so you're always doing something. You're not always doing what you want to be doing. You're always doing something. You're always doing something, even if it's not like what you want to be doing. I guess I'm trying to say that right, but you're always busy. Basically, what I'm saying. So either way, it's something you can be doing if you're not doing what you want to be doing.
And William, just real quick, do you find that that's internally driven for you? Like, because my mom is like, she would have difficulty running her own business because she wouldn't want to go do it. And she's like,
right.
I understand how you stay in the studio to 5 a.m. And I'm like, it's not a plan. It's just the thing's not done. I need to finish it. So do you find your drive to be internal or imposed?
I would say it's probably more imposed than internal. I know, as I've had other businesses I've kind of worked on and entrepreneur stuff I've tried, and it's like some things I just don't have the drive to do, but things need to get done. So some things have to get done. So I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, if there's like a meetings we had with the artist or meeting with the possible client or retailer or something like that, we have to be available for these activities. So it's definitely I think of necessity. You just have to get things done so you can become to do things you love more, have more time on your hands to work on the stuff that you really love to do. So it's kind of sacrificing in that way.
Yeah,
it is all encompassing. It is. I definitely, there are days when I'm like, what did I do to myself? Like I was just living a fine life at a job, like where I could cut it off, So it is absolutely time consuming. I will say we are very, very fortunate that we have, this family dynamic with the business. Cause I took my daughter to Disney World last week and I was like, hey, I'll come and work at the office till midnight on Thursday, but Friday I am out of here. and it was just a given, I took my laptop with me just in case, but I didn't really do much work on the trip. We had a couple of phone calls, but I was able to really, they were able to kind of pick up the slack where somewhere where I was out, and same goes with William when he goes somewhere. So being in a team entrepreneur situation is definitely very helpful. I do not envy people who are doing it 100% solo. But it is absolutely all encompassing. And, when you're growing, there are times when it's like, okay, I've been putting this thing off, but it's got to happen, or.
I mean, I don't do many discussions around like entrepreneurship. There are a lot of people who are doing like finance talk and stuff online. I try to avoid being in that space. But as a person that's been self-owned for however long, I'm constantly having conversations with folks around like who you're beholden to. And outsiders will think like, oh, you make your own schedule, you're living the dream. And it's like, I guess you could approach it that way, but it seems more the opposite of, I have to take the work whenever it comes. So if that's 3 a.m, I'm beholden to that schedule. They live in Okinawa, I'm beholden to that schedule. I work for whoever will hire me. So I don't have hours. I don't have a boss. I have 80,000 bosses if I'm trying to work with people.
For sure.
And so it's nice to also see though that you still smile. Like you both seem still very fulfilled by this work, even if it is very consuming. And so before we head out, how can people find the puzzles? How can people learn more? How can people support? And as an artist, how can I send you all stuff to see if we can get some puzzles made? That's for later. But how can people buy your puzzles, find your puzzles, learn more about what you're working on?
Well, we are available on our website at puzzlesofcolor.com. Which also on our website, we do have a link where you can see all the stores, if there is a store local to you where you can purchase a puzzle. We are on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, at Puzzles of Color. We were lucky to be able to get our name. If you would like to just general inquiries, go to info@puzzlesofcolor.com. If you have an art submission that you'd like to submit, you can do that at art@puzzlesofcolor.com. And we also have a podcast where we interview all of our artists. We're really big on supporting and uplifting and bringing attention to the artists behind the pieces. So we have an interview series that we do with them called Vibe In With, and that's available wherever you get your podcasts. And you can actually listen to interviews with them. And we also have playlists based on the music that they like and the music that inspires them that you can listen to while you're doing your puzzle.
That's dope. That's dope. Great. Well, I want to thank both of you. And a side note, I will be purchasing a puzzle. I have to figure out which one will work for me. I got diagnosed with melanoma in 2019 and got my pinky toe amputated. I was on treatment for 13 months. And right before I was diagnosed, 4 months earlier, my partner was diagnosed with appendiceal cancer and I had to have surgery. Both of us have recovered well and we are as healthy as you can be. But we did puzzles following that. When she was in the hospital, one of the only things we could do to occupy her mind and for us to try to make a lightness of the experience was puzzles. And brought them back home with us. And some of our friends came through and did puzzles with us while we were recovering. I would sit when I went in for treatments or other times where I needed to be in the hospital and do puzzles with some of the older folks that were also in kind of the rec room. And it was this connection to my childhood that I had forgotten for 25, 30 something years. I hadn't done puzzles with any type of comprehensive interest in 25, 30 years. And so I just want to say what you all do is important. I could not find any puzzles that represented me during that time period. And so now I'm glad that I'm healthier and get to do it while it's fun and have representation in the work.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we love to hear different stories, especially when people are young kids that are, hadn't seen themselves and they get to now. It's definitely, that is one of the things that keeps us motivated, even when we are working for our millions of bosses, is the positive stories that we hear from other people.
Well, I want to say thank you. Give each one of you all a chance to say goodbye. I think we're going to be cut off in 20 seconds. So thank y'all.
All right. Thank y'all. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Peace. And check out the puzzles of color. I'll make sure in the comments below all the information. You can follow the links. This has been Just For My People. And I'm Chris from Black Land Ownership. All right. Y'all take care.
You too, man.
Thank you. Bye.
Peace.